Welcome to the Men Talk Ubuntu podcast. Our guest this episode is an open book of a story that we can all relate to. Like a book, he's a fountain of knowledge when it comes to mental health and overcoming our cognitive, emotional, and environmental challenges. Herbie is the host and founder of the Just Believe podcast, a suicide prevention speaker, a multi-time suicide survivor, and normalizing the expression of what's really going on in our lives is something that he is really passionate about. I'm excited to share this conversation with all of you. Herbie, it's a pleasure to have you here. Please tell us about your story and journey.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me first and foremost. I appreciate it. When it comes to my story, man, you know what? I'm just gonna get into it. I don't want to hold people up. Waking up to the sound of someone banging at my door. As I open the door, I realize it's my ex-girlfriend, trying to figure out why she's here. Instantly, she's like, "Ugh, Herbie, why do you look like that? Why do you smell like that? Hello, are you gonna answer me?" The whole time I'm trying to decide if I should tell the truth, because every male told me I can't be weak, I can't be vulnerable, I gotta man up. Then she uttered these words: "I love you, I'm here for you." So I decided to tell the truth. This is the third day in a row I attempted suicide. And to be honest with you, it would have been the fourth if you didn't come knocking. Instantly, she starts crying. She hands me the phone, telling me to call the suicide prevention lifeline number. So I did. As I'm on the phone, I'm speaking to the counselor. She's, "Sir, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel today?" As I replied to -10. And to be honest with you, this is the first time in my life I don't trust myself by myself. So she recommended I check myself to a behavioral health center. So I did. As I'm there, I'm getting evaluated by a couple of nurses. One of the nurses stopped me and says, "I've been doing this for years. You don't belong here. You're going to tell your story to others and help them change their lives. I don't know if you believe in God, but he's going to help you." At the time, I had no idea what he was talking about. To be honest with you, I just wanted my pillow, my blanket, and head in my room to cry. Because no one thinks about attempting suicide, let alone checking himself into this place. A few moments passed by. He's evaluated by the psychiatrist who's running it. He just glances at my file and tells me to take this. I didn't like his approach. It reminded me of something like a used car salesman. I decided to use my voice. For the first time in my life, I realized I had a voice and how powerful it can be. Take what? I'm not taking that. I don't even know what that is. He hesitates, looks at me, glances back at my file, says, "You're from the Bronx, so people from the Bronx have a low IQ. They can't really read or write that well. I'm just going to put this out there. When people throw labels at you, please tell them labels are made for jars, not people." So as I stood up and tried to figure out what is this, he tells me, "You have bipolar. The reason why you have suicidal ideation and attempts is because of your bipolar." Since he didn't know how to communicate with me nor wanted to, I went right back to that same male nurse. I asked him, "Hey, is there any other ways that I can tackle my mental health? I'm trying to figure this out. I don't trust that guy." He recommended me journaling. "Hey, take this journal and start writing. It can help you." So I did. As I started writing, I realized the trigger of my depression was my parents, for the fact that they didn't teach me how to love myself. Here I am dating someone else, hoping that they could teach me how to love myself. Sounds ridiculous every time I think about it. I kept writing and I realized I was a functional alcoholic. I was only drinking to numb the pain instead of trying to understand my pain. A few days pass by. Thankfully, another psychiatrist comes. Actually gives me a proper test to see if I had bipolar, if I was or not. Thankfully, I wasn't. She looked at me and said, "Sir, I'm going to release you, but I recommend you seek therapy." Shay, I'm not going to lie to you. Your boy was broke, okay? So that therapy thing wasn't happening. So when I got back to the crib, I typed in on Google, "how to love yourself." Discovered something called positive affirmations. Had no idea what it was. But since I was in dire need, hell, I decided to take it to the extreme. I got sticky notes placed up everywhere, from the bedroom to the mirror in the bathroom to my refrigerator to even in my car. Then I did something I'd never done before. Started talking to myself in the mirror, telling myself, "I am love. I am smart. I can change the world if only I just believe." After that, I got a marker and wrote "just believe" as big as I can on that mirror. Some of my boys found out I was in this place. and I was depressed, and they wanted to cheer me up. They wanted to take me out to drink since my nickname was Anything Possible for the fact that I love Hennessy so much. But then I discovered something called boundaries. Nah, bro, I love you, man, but I can't hang out with you. Once I start drinking, I turn into the Incredible Hulk, and I can't control that, man. They didn't get it, but they respected it. So I kept journaling, and I found something that no one talked about: the power of forgiveness. As I kept journaling, I realized I had to forgive my parents for not teaching me how to love due to the fact that I lost a sister at the age of 3 due to brain cancer. So they was depressed. Then I had to forgive myself for damaging my body and trying to end my life because I was depressed. You see, I personally went from hopelessness to happiness. I share this story every moment I can because I want others to know that you can get better. You just have to just believe. And if you're ever wondering about that ex-girlfriend of mine, she is now my wife, and she blessed me with 2 amazing kids. Thank you, Shay, for letting me share part of my story. I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you sharing it. Wow. Almost want to just take a moment to let the story sink in. That's so powerful, and honestly, it's an honor to just hear you share that so candidly. So thank you, Herbie. It goes beautifully into what we want to talk about today, which is maintaining mental health. And it sounds like your journey has led you to a place where you're definitely maintaining it very well, and you've come to a great position of trusting yourself, forgiving yourself, and loving yourself to the point that you can even open up your life and share it in a healthy manner, if we say that, with a loving woman, and you have children as well, which is just beautiful to hear. So congratulations. It's very late, but
thank you, man. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, hey, carry on. I think before we dig in, I want to ask a question similar to the one that you were asked when you went into the hospital, just find out where we're at today. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you say that you are mentally?
I'll say an 8. Yeah, there's some things that that I'm still trying to work out the kinks, the scheduling, the parenting thing. It throws your whole schedule away, man. Well, other than that, I'm good. I'm good. I'm blessed to be in a position to be strong enough to share my story. I know the importance of storytelling. I think that's how we learn as people, and also the importance of normalizing mental health and having conversations when it comes to suicide prevention. Like, we can prevent it if we talk about it more. And storytelling, I try to articulate my story as best as possible to let people know the importance of being aware of their mental health and what it looks like, and how you can get back your power, as far as being mental, your whole mental and whatnot.
Yeah. 100%. I think there is that feeling of I'm powerless against this, and I'm being swept away, whether it's by the emotions, by the reactions, by the situation. And there's a very proactive approach we can take where we take back control, take back power. And firstly, I want to ask as well, what was the conversation? Because you mentioned conversation quite a lot now. What was the conversation that you were having at this initial stage? What were some of the things, say, Herbie was saying to himself or hearing in his mind that perhaps led us to this position?
As far as me telling my story, or as far as like the journey of like when I was struggling?
Nah, so literally say while you were struggling, because I'm going to ask you about how you talk to yourself and what you think now, having journaled and all these different changes happening in your life. So I'm trying to figure, what was that young man who'd gone for 3 days, potentially, attempting, should we say, to end his life before someone walks in? What was he saying to himself, if you see what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I got
What
you.
were the thoughts that you were having around that time? Like, just
so
doesn't necessarily have to go into detail about the act type.
No. I would never do that. But as far as like mentally, like how I was talking to myself, saying that I was worthless, right? For me, I'm gonna peel back the curtain a little bit.
Mm.
So for me, in my story, I struggled with my parents, right? Like the lack of love. They wasn't really showing love
Yeah.
to me, like telling me like, hey, I love you. It was just one of those things like I put a roof over your head, you got clothes, I feed you. That's my way of saying I love you. And for myself, I moved out of the Bronx to try to do the college life, and I was out there for years, and they never came to visit me,
Mm.
and they was missing my birthday. They missed 3 years in a row. They missed my birthday. So around this time, like my my inner critic, or not even my inner critic, my depression was just at an all-time high, and it kept talking to me in a negative way, as far as like, you're worthless, nobody cares about you, not even your own family. And I never put two to two together that the only way that it was coming out is when I was drinking.
Mm-hmm.
All those dark demons and those negative thoughts was just saying like, why are you here? If the people that gave you life don't care about you, then why are you here? And it just kept talking to me, and it kept like at a whole time high. I couldn't control it, right? And obviously, like that led to my attempts. And for me, I like, to be honest with you, I'm still trying to figure out why this woman came over to my house, because she had no reason to, right? We wasn't really talking, but that just shows you, whether you believe in God or the universe or the divine, however you want to define it, that there's higher powers out there that's here, like angels or spirits or whatever. And for her to come over to my house for no reason, to be honest, but at that moment, it potentially saved my life, right? Because I had to be vulnerable with her to tell her, hey, I'm not mentally, I'm not right. I had to explain to her, this is how I'm talking to myself. As you see, don't judge me. As you see 4 bottles of Hennessy placed everywhere, all empty bottles all over the place. And it was just of pain and hurt. And I had to admit to her before I came, call the suicide prevention line of, this is how I'm talking to myself. And this is how I felt. And it was like, it was hard, but it was something that, like, it's like that saying of getting that like gorilla off your back.
Mm-hmm.
And it let me know, because she knows me like, since we was like 17. So she'd been knowing me for a while. So it was just something that, okay, something's wrong with you. Something's up. And to allow me to, she held space for me to allow me to tell her what I was thinking mentally. Hopefully that answered your question.
Definitely, not definitely. More than that. I mean, I want to ask, was that one of your first experiences with having someone, should we say, just really listen to you and or be there to listen, and you feel ready to actually speak? Because even when you were talking about being in the hospital afterwards, you connected with the nurse, but you didn't necessarily divulge everything. You sort of then went off to almost start to do that internally a lot more. But I'm just wondering, outside of her, did you have, or have you had more of that, where someone's there to listen and you're willing to share as well?
No. Like,
Mhm.
I tried to express myself with some of my homeboys, and they they laughed at me, not in the sense of like, ha 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 ha, he's bugging out. They laughed at me as a sense of, it was a nervous laugh. Like, my homie's struggling, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say, you know? And like, obviously, like, they try to cheer me up and whatnot. But after that, it was just like, man, I just kept everything on the inside. I try to open up and share some of my thoughts with my parents, and, they didn't pick up the phone or whatever. And it just was like, man, no one can really be there for me. Like, and even if I do tell my friends, they don't know what to do. Right. Like, let's just be honest, as a guy, I never heard of the suicide lifeline number. I never even heard of the crisis lifeline number. Hell, I didn't even hear of like any of my male friends talking about going to the therapist or seeking help or anything like that. So it was a weird position I was in. But as we fast forward, like, during that time, being in that place, which I'm grateful to have that male nurse because he looked like me, right? And he understood that the pressure of a guy, and not even a guy, but a black male, of, man, this guy, he had enough. Not the fact of like he had a chemical imbalance or anything. It's just the world was slowing down, or the world was too much for him. Like the sky was falling like Chicken Little, and he tried to end it all. And for him to sit there, and he was talking to me throughout the whole time. So like, he look on me, he look for me, I look for him. And we were just talking. And that experience I was thankful for, to see someone in that position to understand, okay, like we may not grew up in the same environment or whatnot, but I understand that this man is hurting and he just needs some guidance.
Brilliant. And what else has helped you in terms of giving you guidance out of that situation or out of that space that you were at? Like what are some of the other resources maybe you encountered, or is it mainly journaling, their books?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. It's like, for me, I'm gonna use the superhero analogy. It's like Batman, right? I always tell people, have like different tools in your kit. So like, Batman has his bat belt, and he has different gadgets and whatnot. So for me, I use journaling, I use coloring, right? I use coloring in the sense of, when the world is moving too fast, it's my responsibility to slow it down. But how can I slow it down if I'm not focused? So when I journal, it helps me slow down. I'm focused on coloring in the lines, make sure it looks right, make sure everything looks good. Therefore, whatever thoughts of like anxiety that I was having, or negative thoughts, I'm not even worried about it, because I'm just locked into coloring. So I use coloring, exercising, not exercising in the sense of like, let me be the next Rock or Arnold Schwarzenegger or anything like that, but exercising in the sense of just getting some fresh air. Right, a 20-minute walk goes a long way. Whether you sit there, you run, you jog, whatever, it just gets some fresh air. And even if you hit the weights, that helps too. Whatever things that I was thinking, right? Like sometimes I get upset at my wife, and when I hit the weights, I'm like, man, I was really tripping. We was arguing over the toilet seat. Like, man, I'm an idiot. It's my fault that like I left the toilet seat up. Like, so it's like stuff like that helped you really slow things down the process. You start thinking and getting your mind right and eating healthy.
Thank you for listening to Men Talk Ubuntu podcast and being a valued member of our community. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, and other social media now for access to our latest updates. DM us and let us know what your mental health is on a scale of 1 to 5. Thank you.
Eating healthier, I should say. I went from going to like McDonald's and all these other fast foods, and didn't realize that it was messing with my not only my body, but my mental. I wasn't really thinking clear. My brain was always like cloudy. My thoughts was always cloudy. So switched the diet, started doing like the little pescatarian, pretty much a vegetarian that loves seafood. I love lobsters way too much, so that ain't going anywhere. But but I started eating healthier and started adding more greens. Started not only adding more greens, but taking advantage of the apple cider vinegar, the black seed oil, the sea moss, really getting into my body, because now I realize not only, my body's a temple, but it's all together. You know what I mean? Trying to make sure. Also do meditation. And meditation is something that is different for everyone. You don't have to do the crisscross applesauce. You can just sit down, take a moment, no devices, and just think. I try to schedule 15 minutes of doing that. What are the tools that I use? I try to go to like the beach or any type of area that has like water, just to relax, just the calming waves. When you hear it, it just slows it down for you. But then also with the journaling, before I wrap this part up,
Sure.
There's other things that I like. I do try to do the pen and the paper as much as I can. I'm not gonna lie, being a dad, that ain't gonna my kids are like 4 and 1, so that you sitting down doing that, nah, I don't get a moment to. So I use my phone. and I use the voice note. And I find this so helpful. So however I feel, I can articulate my thoughts right away. And then I go back to it, let's say a week or two later, and I'll listen to it. And this time I can identify how I felt. I can actually hear the tone of my voice, and I can actually, okay, this is the area that I have to improve on, right? Journaling is probably my biggest advocate that I use in high school. For those who don't know, I play basketball. Pretty good at it. My grades wasn't that spectacular, but my talent was pretty good at it. And I had a high school coach that always used to say, Herbie, what's the weakest part of your game? And I'm like, dude, I'm like 15, 16. You tell me, you the coach. Like, you tell me. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be the coach. You tell me. And he said, I'm going to teach you how to identify the areas to improve. So when I do journal, I think about it in that mindset. As far as the coach, how he installed into me, what areas can I improve? So I journal. I have two journals. One is to share my thoughts, and the other one is to identify the areas in my life that I can improve. And this helped me out dramatically during my healing journey because I couldn't afford therapy. So I had to be my own therapist, and I had to identify some of the things. And for me, I realized the behavior. My behavior was to run to the liquor store. And I realized I was going 8 times a week. You know what I mean?
And it was an extra day.
Oh, bro, it was sometimes it was a 3 a day. You know what I mean? Oh, hey, I'm not in the mood for Hennessy. I might get this, I might get that. Or if I'm going out with the fellas, depends on what they want. So it was like, so I identified my behavior. Then I was understanding my thoughts. Oh, I thought that if I drink, I feel better, right? It was like a triangle, like the behavior, thoughts, and feelings. So once I was able to adjust my planning, okay, I'm not going to take the same route at home because of the liquor store. Therefore, my behavior is going to change. I'm not going to have the urge to go see go pick up a bottle or anything. Then the thoughts was, okay, now who am I? Why am I feeling depressed? What is this? What can I do? And then once I did that, it went to the feelings of, okay, now I understand my feelings. Whether it was depression or insecurities, I can understand them. I can acknowledge them. I just don't have to believe them. So those was the things that I did as far as like the tools and whatnot.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I mean, they're all very straightforward. Like I said, you don't need money to do these. You just have to get started. Really effective. You've jumped ahead to everything I was gonna do, which is great. I love it. That means we're on the same wavelength,
I got you, man. I got you.
Used to say I wanted to ask about how, if someone is facing some issues, how can they assess where they are and what actions they need to take. Boom, we've got the 2 different kinds of journals, and we've also got this idea of just reconnect with nature, get out there, listen to the waves. Well, it's a bit windy out here right now. There's some storms brewing, but enjoy nature. I think one of the key things you're pointing out, and with all of those strategies, is they bring you into reality and they make you look at reality for what it is, its goods, its bads. They're both there. It just is what it is. It's up to you how you see it, rather than like you described with the liquor or distractions, if you will, the things we end up feeling, which take us out of reality and keep us stuck in a pattern, just walking in cycles or loops, because we're not going to try and change anything, or we're going to overwhelm ourselves by watching news and all this and talking about everything else that we could change, rather than the easy thing that we can do right now, which is just go, what am I doing? And you don't have to change it all today. That's the good news.
Yeah, it's a process.
Can make a start. And it honestly, I always find, I journal as well, and I've not tried the audio. I might give that a go. I don't have kids, so I got time. But I think I really do love your encouragement to essentially stick to reality and really look at what's going on, what's working for you in life, what's not. And one thing I would like to ask, though, is if someone struggles with, say, being honest with themselves, or they don't want to confront some of the reasons why, it's just for some reason they can't yet break out of that habit of, I'm just gonna eat this food really quickly. I'm just going to have another glass because this will allow me to do this or process this. For someone who perhaps needs a little bit of a push to just save themselves and stop trying to save everyone else, and they're having trouble loving themselves and being honest with themselves about what they're doing to themselves with their nutrition, with their activities. What's an easy, I want to say first step? I don't want to say 3 in case that's too many. What's an easy first step with just learning to be honest with yourself and learning to perhaps come to love yourself?
Oh man, that's a great question. I found it easy to just talk to yourself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Once you do that, you realize the insecurities, right? Like whatever you're feeling or whatever you're going through, and then seeking help, right? Like when you seek help, people think that when you seek help, it's a sign of weakness, and it's not. It's actually a sign of strength and show self-awareness. We all need help, right? For example, when you go to the gym and you see this guy who easily can bench press 350, he has a spotter there, right? Just in case something happens. Seeking help doesn't have to necessarily be something weak. The strongest people have help. They have a whether it's a therapist, a coach, a mentor, someone to guide them. Hey, you're carrying way too much on your plate. Let's break this down. So for me, my ex-girlfriend was the one who now is my wife, but she was the one who allowed me to open that window of vulnerability. But then she was like, hey, you need to seek help. And then that help actually led me to the man I am today. My healing journey took probably like 3.5 years before I was even strong enough to even process what I went through, let alone even thinking about speaking and sharing these crucial moments of my life. So for me, I will always say, be honest with yourself and allow yourself to seek help. And seeking help is something that I think we all at some point in life seek help, whether it was mentally or something physically that we need help. Like say when you was in school and you struggle with math or you struggle with science or even reading, you got a tutor to help you be the best version of you. So it's the same thing. So that's why I would say that. Hopefully that answered your question.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It answered my question, and it also made me just also go back to the point you made about affirmations and either sticking them everywhere around you. Therefore I'm going, yeah, if someone also struggles to read the affirmation or whatever they're trying to say to themselves that's positive, take that as another moment to go, why am I not even able to say this about myself? Don't just go, well, it must not be true. Like, delve in, really explore why. That's why this journey, it's lifelong, and it takes a while because you have to get deep. There's a lot of deep stuff going on.
No, it does. It takes a lot to process. So, I had someone reach out. They heard my story and it's like, man, how long did it take you to journey to heal on your journey? And I was just like, oh, I don't know, like 3-something years or whatever. And he was like, man, I hope in 3 years. And I was just like, don't compare yourself to anyone. Your journey is your journey. Just trust the process. You don't have to sit there and speak. And I think once you start comparing yourself, oh, that's it. You go down that rabbit hole. For me, I'm very strategic with social media. Okay. I'm going to post, I'm going to be active, maybe 2 hours, and I'm good. I'm going to walk away because then I know myself, man. I might click on somebody's profile and be like, man, they got like 17 posts, but they got 500,000 followers. I don't know if they paid for it. The followers. I don't know the amount of work that they actually are doing. But what I do know is what I can control and what I can do. I'm going to control what I can post. I'm going to like, comment, react with some people, but I can choose not to be on social media as long because it was something you said earlier. And it's like with the news. Yeah. I only watch probably like 15 minutes of it. I'm good because it takes you down a rabbit hole that you don't need to go down. you shouldn't go down, So I'm very strategic with the time that I put in my phone, the time that I put into TV. I'm all about learning, like you said earlier about reading. Like I, for those who don't know, I was addicted to video games, right? Like whatever. I think what's the newest thing out? The PS5, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Like during this time, I had like the Xbox 360, and I was home, played 16 hours in a row, right? Didn't realize it. Had no idea. Man, I'm playing the 2K. I'm playing Call of Duty. I got what is it? During the time it was like Batman. I'm playing all these games. And then like my girlfriend came over and she was like, "Hey, did you eat today?" And I was like, "No, you know what? I had some Pringles." Like that was it. I was like, "Oh, I had a couple of Pringles." And she was just like, "I left your house in the morning, got off of work, went out to eat, brought you some food, and you're still in the same position." So I realized that these devices and stuff, yes, it's cool. Like, it's good to network and all this stuff and get into the games. And I always talk about breaking the patterns, but make sure that you break the pattern. How am I trying to say this? Make sure that when it comes to like certain devices, like you're not addicted to it.
Yeah.
And for me, I realized like I was addicted to video games and social media and all this other stuff. And I had to hold myself accountable and say, let me break this cycle. And the only way to break the cycle is not to participate in it.
Mm-hmm. Whew. That's a tough pill for some people to swallow right now. Ooh, I'm gonna have to throw away the controller, man.
It's all about self-control and knowing your limits, man. That's it. Seriously.
Yeah, you got to know where you're at. Like I'm probably somewhat similar to yourself, where I know there's certain things I can control and have in moderation. There's certain things I just it's nothing, or I go crazy. So like drinking as well, since 2014, that's the last time I touched a drop of anything. I probably wasn't as badly in, but I got my reasons, I got my stories, but there's things like that I know for sure I just have to, because otherwise I'm no moderation with something. It's just the way we work. Gaming as well, I get into stuff, but thankfully I just missed one or two of the upgrades of the consoles, and thank goodness, because it looks really amazing right now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, no, you're right. My homeboy sent me oh my goodness, it was a game on PS5. I think it was like a Spider-Man game. He's like, "Yo, I know you into like Marvel and all that. Like, yo, check this out." And I was just like, "Yo, I'm glad I don't have a PS5.
Yeah,
I might be divorced by the end of that." Like, it looks so real, but I'm like, "Nah, I'm good, man. Appreciate it. I appreciate it."
Let me ask, what's fatherhood done for you in terms of healing? Because I suspect it brings out a lot of insecurities, and perhaps it gives great joy, of course, and it brings a lot of fulfillment to life. But I know fatherhood comes with certain pressures. So I'm just wondering, outside of those, what's it given you, perhaps in terms of maybe building you up or making yourself see yourself a different way?
Oh man, that's a great question. As far as fatherhood, I'm gonna peel back another curtain. So I had to have a conversation with my parents, right? Like no parents want to hear like, "Hey, you're the trigger of my depression. You're the trigger of my attempts." So it was something that it was an awkward conversation. I know I'm not gonna say awkward. It wasn't awkward for me. I had to tell them how I felt, right? They didn't want to hear it, but I didn't care. It needed to be said. And as I like wrap up the conversation, I was telling them that the generational curse of the pain is going to get from the pain to the addictions. It stops here. It stops here because if I ever get married and ever decide to have kids, I don't want them to experience that. Which thankfully it did. I talk about creating boundaries with my friends. I had to create boundaries with my parents as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when we fast forward and I have kids, the joy of it is something that words can't really explain, like, to be honest with you. But no one talks about the insecurities, as you said, some of the trigger moments, because you have a child that looks similar to you or just like you, and you think about some of the pain that you went through, right? As a kid, as a young adult, or whatever. And for me, it was very challenging. I don't like to use the term difficult because it's not difficult. It was just challenging in the sense of, okay, we overcame this hurdle of life. Now we have to overcome another hurdle of life, of being okay with your inner child, right? And understanding that now you have a child physically here that looks up to you. So whatever insecurities that you have to face them now. And for me, I had to face them right away.
Hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed creating.
Don't forget to follow, like, share, and connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our latest episode and listen to any you missed. And tune in next episode.
Take care.